everybody. Welcome back to the Malabash Spotlight Show. Today we have a dear friend of mine and a super talented set designer, graphics designer. I mean, she does everything. Victoria Burkholder, and it's so good to have her in the studio. We're going to be learning some really amazing things that she's been working with and some companies that she's worked with over, some companies that she's worked with over the years. Victoria, it's really good to have you here. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess let's get to it.
Victoria's been moving too, so she's been doing a lot of stuff, and she's going to be sharing with us some of her fun projects that we're going to go through. But first of all, I guess we can go back to college, just kind of how we met. Let's start out with, what got you interested, Victoria, in graphic design, and what got you interested in doing sets and kind of, placement of products, and because you've done all kinds of really great things with
Mhm.
showrooms and sets and all kinds of great stuff. So what was the driving force behind that? Why did you get into it?
So I actually went to college for interior design, and I've always been kind of on more of the tech savvy side of things. But I've also come from a very big like carpentry family. So my grandpa's a carpenter and electricians. My dad is a plumber. So I just kind of came in that world, as well as my aunt is an interior designer. So that kind of drove me. I wanted to do art, but I didn't want to just be an art student. Like I did, but I didn't know what to do with that. So interior design just felt like it kind of meshed a lot of things I've already been very comfortable with and understanding. And I had people that I can talk to if I had a question. So that kind of drove me into just getting it more into like the design set type stuff. And then what brought me into more of the world of like, I guess you can say marketing, and like visual retails, showroom designs, presentation design, however you want to call it. That actually came from my internship. I had an internship with a company called Alderman Company, who I later on worked for as well. And they were a commercial, or they are a commercial design studio. And so I had the fun ability to be an art director and photo stylist for them, creating all sorts of different set designs and prop styling. And I can show you a few things that I had a fun collab with them, as well as just some graphic design stuff. But graphic designs I've had is more like my own exploration. I never took illustration type classes really, other than like the normal Photoshop and Illustrator. But
You've taught yourself a lot of things.
yeah, I just
done a lot of self-teaching. Like when we were talking earlier, just like you kept on going about all these things that you taught yourself. I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And you could become a lawyer for, setting up contracts and stuff.
no, I will never become a lawyer. Funny that you say that though. My family's always been like, you talk a lot, you should be a lawyer. But anyways.
I don't feel like lawyers talk a lot, but whatever. I love it. That's awesome. Well, super cool. And we can get into your projects here. I'm really excited to show them because they're just really, really beautiful. But and I will ask you some questions later if this doesn't come up about, like what's the difference between being an art director and some of the things within each project that you've done, because I think most people know about design as far as graphic design or interior design, but what are some of those things like broken down? So I'm going to pop up your lovely display here and we can go ahead and walk through this and walk us through some of your amazing projects. This is one of them here.
So a lot of these projects are just some set design and styling, as well as art direction. So when you were saying what's the difference between like different art direction, there is art direction for like, usually that's very much based around video production and graphic design, but people don't see that sometimes as art direction for photo styling. So this is for photo styling purposes. I was an art director or photo stylist is a lot of what people like to say. That goes along with, so for instance, this I would have created the set, came up with the drawings, went to the carpenters, been like, hey, this is what my set's gonna look like. Found the Duratran, that is the like window graphic that you see. So I would find the Duratran or this like laminate vinyl sheet that's this big, huge picture essentially that you put behind for photo purposes. And then also finding things like the props, so that sofa, the plants, anything you could think of that's in the picture. And then also sometimes the direction of light, but a lot of times that is a collab with the photographer itself. So there's a lot of that goes into this, going from the creation of the set, so the concept, all the way down to just like the little rock that you see on the coffee table. So
It's amazing. I mean, a lot of times I think people are just like, "Oh, wow, somebody's living room is so beautiful." And it's like, wow, I had to do a lot of staging and all the way from the ground up concept, from like a storyboard, the
mhm,
colors, the fabrics, the textures, everything to pull that together. And then this fake window behind them, which, you can just imagine yourself in this amazing type of, modern, a little bit more of like a maybe I don't know, some sort of building that's really pretty with this
mhm.
beautiful room. And it's actually just all stage. It's really interesting.
Yeah, the funnest part, I think, it's all smoke and mirrors. So I
Yeah.
think my favorite part is that it's all smoke and mirrors because this set was only 2 walls. So it's the wall that you see on the brick side, and that's not actually probably a wall either. That might have been at that time I can't remember, but it might have been a like a floating wall, which is a wall that you kind of just like place in front of another wall to make another like another type of texture. So a brick, for instance, versus a drywall or plaster that would have been that like blue painted. But so this is probably like 2 wall set, and sometimes you can float a staircase and make it look like there's like another part of the house. Like that's my favorite part about set design is just the creativity. You can recreate this 2 wall set into so many different variations depending on the scale of what you need as well. So if you need to get close up on something versus very far back, um, it's just endless options.
That's amazing. Where do you start? Like where for you, where do you usually start? Do you need to get inspired by a piece of fabric? Do you need to get inspired by a I don't know. I mean, I guess you could be anything basically. It could be the ottoman that's there, the little piece.
Yeah. That's a great question, and it's usually based on clients.
Yeah.
What they need. Everything in the interior design, art direction, photo styling, graphic design, every designer understands that it's all based around what the client needs. With photo styling, that is, they would probably come up with an idea or concept that they had created. So, for instance, this might have been maybe around that sofa. So the sofa would have been the concept, just pretty much base a room around a sofa. We want it to be like a boho modern in this like industrial refurbished apartment loft or something like that. And then you kind of just come up with the basics of it. A lot of times you've come with inspirational photos. So like photos that you might reference when you're creating this set, as well as the styling and the fabric. So things like a lot of times, especially in the interior design world, we like to take out our little samples of fabrics and kind of just start playing around with them, and just kind of figuring out what the feel. So you have to think about it in the sense of who lives here. Like this is either somebody that has like a lot of love for texture. This is somebody that might be young, maybe a young professional, somebody maybe living in a city or some sort of like up and coming city, because that's very much in with the industrial loft look. And there's just so many. It's a great question, but there's like a lot of ways something is started. Um, but you also have to think about also going back to like construction wise, think about how are you going to utilize that set as well. So
Mm,
like, when we're creating these sets, the windows have to be so high because the lights can only go so high without reflecting a specific way. Like you have to think of all and reusing the set. So if this set's going to be permanent or semi-permanent, or it's going to be taken out down right away. Those what's how do you make the set? Should it be like a 14 by 15? So then to make sure it's big enough. So then whenever we do want to add things in, you can. So there's just so many different parts to it, and it's just understanding your surroundings, the concept of what the client wants, and the overall feel of who may have lived here.
yeah, it's telling that story, and you did a really like, you know your stuff super well because that was, it's you can tell that you've been doing it for a really long time, which you have, and you've got so much experience and everything in that, and there's so much that goes into, at the end, this
Mhm,
picture, right?
mhm,
And you told such a great story of what this would equal,
mhm.
and what there's so much that goes into just this one spot. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, if you go to I think it's the next picture. This is another example of like who lived here.
Yeah.
Like probably some maybe I don't know woman in her. It could be anybody. It could be a woman in her 40s who just loves designing, and
Mhm.
she just had this beautiful I don't know place in the I don't know. I'm trying to think of like New England beach or something, some sort of beach home, the Hamptons. I don't know.
Mhm.
And they just kind of collected all these different artifacts from their stays at the beach, or maybe it's somebody that's in love with just nature in general. It could be. There's just so many ways that you can set this up. So, for instance, like the tea, which is probably not tea, and I don't suggest drinking any teas on sets. Don't drink or eat anything on a set, actually. It's
It's
never
not
a good
real.
time. Probably not what you think it is. Um, uh, and it's probably been there for a while too. So, probably a few days. Um, but yeah, just like it's just so much more like you can bring so much life into something um so I guess 2D.
Mhm.
Really, I mean, most of these photos are not actually experienced in a 3D form. They're all experienced through some sort of material like the internet or an magazine, your phone, whatever it might be. And so, trying to bring that life that you would feel when you're walking into a space, but bringing it into a picture, such a different experience, and trying to learn how to grasp that same feeling.
Yeah, this is just a lovely cozy feeling, and I personally love the lamp. It's just really one of those really pretty kind of cottagey type vibes, and I love it. But, the prop sourcing and stuff for this, now you worked on getting everything there basically, right? And making sure you ordered it from where it needed to be or rented it or however you needed it to be styled, correct?
Mhm. So a lot of prop sourcing, it all depends on the studio you work with, client's budget, things of that
Mhm,
nature. So I've even done things like taken a vase that I needed it to be white, but we didn't have white vases. So I took a green vase and I taped it with white tape. And then I told my graphic designer, like, hey, can you just like make this look like white paint instead? Just like take out the lines. It was far enough so they you really couldn't tell anyways. But it's not in here. But things like that, it's like you have to stay really creative on your feet because like maybe the client doesn't have a budget to go and buy all this blue glass. So, but they want that same feel. So you're like, well, I gotta go think of like, what can I do that's different? So that sometimes like if they don't have the budget, maybe even to buy plants, we'll use like fake plants, things of that nature. There's a lot of like different things that you can do. Again, then it's endless options and it's all a trial and error and just kind of like working on your feet, literally. Always like looking for what's in the studio. What can you be using? I've used my own phone and just like kind of like threw it in there, like somebody's maybe on the phone, and you just throw it in.
Yeah,
Um, so
I
there's
love
just
that.
so many options.
That's awesome. We're gonna go to the next one here.
So this is just like a really fun project that we did in the studios. Um, so sometimes with when it comes to social media, there's those fun little social media projects you get to do. This is one of them. So
So
essentially, it
neat.
was for like a Halloween uh, um, post, and it was just my idea was this like invisible man. I came up with the idea with these two drawing hands that the wooden drawing hands, and I think I actually technically the drawing hands I think are always right-handed. I can't remember now, but I think they're always right-handed, and I only had two right-handed, so I had to have again my graphic designer had to like take my thumb and put it over. I think it's the one on your on the leg. He had to like she had to like move it over to the to the other side. But
That's awesome.
uh, yeah, and like this is a fun like layering project. So the idea is that you take a picture and then you take two pictures at the same time, and you take one picture of just the invisible man, and then in order to get that smoke, you usually take another picture with somebody probably blowing up the smoke or something, and then you kind of layer it, and then the designer, like graphic designers, can um, layer them together and like take to just crop out the smoke. I can't remember the terminology, but yes, that's the overall idea.
That's awesome. It's super cool, very different, very unique, and just really catches your eye. And you're like, there's got to be a really interesting story here. And I remember in drawing class too about the hand, so that's really funny that you had to like improvise. I love it. I mean, it's all part of the game, right? So
Yeah. And also with that one, the whole body was like stuffed with like foam and newspapers and things like that. Just kind of
oh
like
wow.
so
That's awesome.
again, being on your feet, you have to be creative.
Yeah,
Another thing,
absolutely.
yeah, another thing, as you can see, this is the Arizona living. You can I don't just do set design, I guess you can say. Um, as you said, I do a lot of different types of design and projects. Um, yeah.
And this is like like you said, this is the concept you come to your clients with this to kind of give them an idea because sometimes it's hard for people to be able to visualize what your dream is. Not your dream, but what you've already figured out in your mind. You're like, I know
Mhm,
exactly what this is gonna look like for the most part. Like I can see it, but they can't. So this
mhm.
is like a really great way for them to be able to see it. And you have to get it all to proper proportions and
Yes.
to fit in the room and all
Mhm.
that stuff. And it's not just taking pictures and sticking them on a blank canvas or anything like that. You actually have to make sure that it fits to the size of what the room is. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you're gonna have some disappointed clients.
Mhm. Yeah, this is like I would have to say a sloppy copy, but my own personal opinion. But this is like a sloppy copy of something I would have created for a client. So this is very much everybody knows the e-design world. I kind of dived into that a little bit as well, and started creating some 2D room designs like this for some other designers. Sometimes I contract out for other designers. Are working with their AutoCAD files and graphic files like that, or even working with just like 2D files that are just room designs. So then just concepting, like you said, getting the ideas out and helping the clients just understand. This might have been also for like a shopping list. So like you can take this and then just be like, hey, here's the design idea and you can go shop it. So this is really fun. I love doing these projects just because they're just creative and I get to use a different program. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's really fun. Very pretty. We'll stick to the next one here.
So this is my little dive into illustration world. Just I've been very interested in graphic illustrations, especially because everybody is everything's graphic wise. I feel like now, and so I started diving into it myself, just kind of fiddling and learning on my own time, just how to create things like I guess like an illustration. And of course, I leaned into more of a design idea, like interior design idea, because just my world. And so this is just like a little kitchenette. Um, so I think I
That's
used
super cool. What program did you use for this one?
yeah, I think I used illustration for this.
Nice. It's so cute. I love the retro little
Yes.
fridge.
Oh my goodness, I love Smeg fridges. I want one so bad. They're just way too expensive right now for me.
I know. It's like, ah, so expensive, but they're so cute.
Oh my goodness, I love them. And again, this is actually a graphic illustration I did for a Super Bowl party that my church, when I was in New York, my church was having a Super Bowl party, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you come up with the poster idea for it?" And I was like, "Yes." So
This
this
is so
was
cool.
really fun. I loved doing this one. I loved the like little like you're invited with the ketchup. So
I know this is so fun and super cool. Like, just I love the different fonts and it really catches it. And it's a really cute. I like the little. I think they're eggs, like the deviled eggs down there. That's so awesome.
yeah, I was like, what do you eat at a Super Bowl party? I don't think anybody eats deviled eggs at a Super Bowl party, but it looked cute.
I
So,
would if they were there. I'm all down.
but
That's so awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your amazing work with us. You've got so much other stuff that you have done and as well, and just it's endless. You've done a lot of things. You've taught yourself a lot of stuff, and I think what are some of the things that you have learned through that you didn't learn maybe in college or you learned along the way, that you'd like to show other people? Because I think a lot of people would be really benefit and very interested, to know some of the other things that a lot of people don't know about getting into the field.
so I always have to tell anybody that's coming into any design field, I would say, not just interior design or graphic design, but any design field, I would have to say to not be afraid to ask questions and also to always be educating yourself and learning as you go. YouTube is your best friend. Trust me. I have become like the tech person mostly for most companies that I've worked for because I'm always the person that they're like, I don't get what this does. Even if I don't know what I'm about to do, I will go and look it up and figure it out and then go and do it. And then someone's like, how did you know? I'm like, I just know these things. I'm just like, no, I don't do that. But I usually look up everything, and I will be honest. I do tell them like I just looked it up on YouTube. Um, but it's great to know because in college, I feel like a lot of it is like book smarts, and you don't get to really like learn what the real world is like. And I in the real world everything goes wrong. In the college world, everything is right because you're the one making up the project and the problems. You know what I mean? But
That's so
in the
true.
Oh, it's so true, right? Oh my goodness. Like I wish I can go back to my college days where I can just kind of create whatever room I felt like creating. Because that was how it was. But now you're really working with real clients and they have real problems. And so you have to be the solution for that. And so you always, if you want to be that solution and you always want to have work, then I would always say be the person that looks up, educates yourself, and just keep going. The world doesn't stop, and so shouldn't you.
Yeah, that's so true. To just keep going. YouTube is definitely my friend for so many things because
Hmm.
you can get some really great experience on there, and it's good to have that education. Um,
I think we lost Ashley. She will be back, I'm assuming. Oh my goodness. But going back to the whole education thing, yes, keeping up with it, and also learning on experience, because just like learning as you go is definitely something that happens to be a thing that you pick up. You pick up on everything. Be friends with the carpenters. They're always the people that help you fix something. And here Ashley is back.
hey, we had a whole systems crash here, so I welcome myself back to my show.
I was just talking and letting them know how they should always be friends with carpenters because they're the ones who fix everything. So
That's
anybody's a carpenter, anybody, be friends with those people because they will teach you things you would never know, and it will make you a better designer if you be friends with the people that are making your design.
Yeah, a lot of the shows, like the not Fixer Upper, but some of the other ones where it's like the Love It or List or some of them, it's just like they're enemies with the designers,
Yes.
and it's not a good idea.
Don't
It's
ever be. Goodness, I always like feel bad for carpenters when they're like not friends with the designers. I'm like, man, it's gonna be really hard to like work on something that you don't even like the person.
exactly, exactly.
So I don't know. I always like to talk to the carpenters, and also it just makes you better. Like I said, a better designer. Like if you know that that's not how something is going to be made, then you're not going to be able to like accurately tell them like, hey, I need this shelving unit, but I don't want anything in the back, but it's going to be 9 feet tall. And it's like, how is that going to stand? You need structural support. So you have to think about those things, and the carpenters will love you if you think for them those things, so they don't have to go and ask you all these questions that seem silly.
No, that's so true, and I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that for sure. Where can people find you to work with you?
So currently, you can just email me. I don't have or you can go on my portfolio. It's the Burkholder dot myportfolio.com. And that's just like my portfolio. You can email me also at Victoria M as in Marie, Burkholder at gmail.com. And yeah, that's pretty much the way. You can also find me on Facebook if you felt like it. You can befriend me. Maybe you're a carpenter, I need to be your friend. So,
That's awesome. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. Are there any other things that you'd like to share with us before we end for the day?
nothing that I know of. This is not how I design, I promise. This is not how I design. This is us moving into a home and not having the budget to pay pay for the design. Remember, your client's budget. I am my own client, and I'm the worst for my own client. I'm like the
Exactly.
worst.
It's fun to play with other people's budgets in a way too, because you get to, design some fun things that you may not be able to for yourself.
Yes, exactly.
That's
So
awesome. What is your favorite before we leave, what is your favorite thing to do? I mean, as far as everything that you've done so far, do you enjoy the prop sourcing? Do you enjoy more the graphics? Does it matter? Do you like a mixture of things?
I have to say my favorite part is probably the installation part. Is like when you're installing your work. It's just so fascinating to see all the things come together. Especially like in showroom design, once you've, it's like a longer process, shorter than most interior design work, but like showroom design, it's a longer process to get to that. And so when you're like on install day and you're putting all the style, you're just styling. I guess styling is my favorite. I guess you could say styling, like an overall concept of what my favorite thing to do is styling. But I do love the concepting portion, like the very beginning. I like the very beginning and I like the very end.
Yes, yeah, the intermediate part is kind of it can get a little monotonous and a little dry at times.
Yeah,
Well,
you're just waiting for things to
exactly.
happen. Yeah.
You're just waiting on stuff to be built and come
Mhm,
in and, well,
mhm,
other
and
things.
taking
Yeah,
down fire or letting out fires or watering fire, whatever how you say that, but
yeah, yeah, putting out fires,
putting
yeah.
out fires, there you go.
Well, I wanted to jump in really quick too. I know I'm backtracking, but I forgot to ask you about, you know, creating a showroom and how you've had to even create walls and stuff. And I know you can't get into specifics on like who you've worked for specifically, but um that can be like what you were talking about, like that can be a really long process because you're basically recreating a house in or a room or multiple rooms within a large building. It's almost
Yes.
like creating, like the smoke and mirrors, and
Yeah.
like creating that whole side of it. It's really different and very interesting.
And that's like a whole different, that's like set design on steroids. It's like
Yes.
it's like you said, it's legitimately showroom design, depending on the showroom, of course, as well, because depending on what you can do. But in my experience, the showrooms I've done, it's literally a full on takedown and like a strike of everything to the just down to the floorboards and everything,
Mm.
and studs, and then you just recreate, and it's a whole different experience. You go from like this modern beachy vibe to like this traditional country living like interior. Like it's so different, but it's so interesting. And again, that's like the install day. I guess also goes into the construction day. It's really fun to see that takedown, and destruction day is really fun. The strike, oh, I love that day. That's just so much fun to be like, oh, anyways. But I don't get to do that part, but I wish I could.
Yeah, that would be probably like some rewarding. Just be like, all right, take out a
Take it
little bit of
down.
frustrations.
Yes, but yeah, showroom design is like a bigger concept to set design. It's like like I said, set design on steroids, and you have to think about what the building already has,
Mm,
where the outlets are in the building,
that's a big
how the
one.
building flows. So like the actual traffic of the people. Yeah, there's so much. I can go on and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think about IKEA, and I know that I would never want to be a designer for them. I just
Really?
as far as like their floor plan, I would be like, oh.
Really? Okay, so like weird, but like I've always kind of wanted to be an IKEA designer. And it's like I don't really care for the IKEA furniture fully, but
Right.
it's just like it's like they get to play, and that's the reason why I like it. It's just like it's set design in a way, but it's like a
Yeah.
showroom set design. So it's just like they get to play and come up with these concepts. I don't think
Mhm.
the store people might not be able to come up with the concepts, but whoever does,
Yeah.
who probably live, I can't remember where IKEA is from now, but Danish. They're no, they're not
Yeah, Swedish.
Swedish.
Mm,
Swedish. I can't
yeah.
remember now. Anyways, wherever they are,
And who
I wish I
knows
could be
yeah.
them right now, creating the little stores, and I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be I mean, I'm glad that you would that would be a scary nightmare for me. I'd be like, "Ah!" but I'm glad that
Really?
you would tackle that with
You would be
very
so good.
fantastic
No,
finesse.
no, we're gonna be on a team together. We're gonna do an IKEA like blowout, just an entire pop up of just Ashley and Vicky.
I'll be the one in the back putting the furniture together while you
We'll do
on the
a belly
floor.
bash pop up. There we go. In the IKEA store.
There we go. I love it. Yep, we're just gonna look out world. Here we come, right?
Right? I know.
Awesome. Victoria, thank you so much.
Thank
It's a
you.
ball having you on here and
Yeah.
thanks for sharing your work and everything. And you guys
Yes.
definitely find her on her social platforms. You can also look at her portfolio. She's got some really amazing things there, and email to work with her because she books it fast. So get it while you can.
Yeah, like
All
right
right.
now, please don't book me yet. Give me like a month or so. I think like maybe 2 months. I also walk dogs, so it's like a whole different other thing.
She'll do
So,
everything for you guys. She'll design your house, walk your dogs for you. Yep,
yeah, yeah.
perfect.
I also love going grocery shopping, but that's beside the point. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And definitely check out Victoria's awesome work. And we'll see you guys back here next time.